Hey guys, it's Brendan, and I had the distinct pleasure of spending the last 2 days with the legend Larry King. And in this video, I want to share with you the 5 lessons I learned from him that can take your communication mastery to another level. Because if you think about it for just 1 second, every relationship you've ever ruined happened because of communication. Every pitch that didn't go well, people didn't buy, they didn't invest in you, believe in you, happened because you didn't say the words right, or you didn't influence them away through your communication. You think about the greatest strides, though, you've ever made. You know, the people that you vibe with, it's because your communication style with them. You think about that time you did that one sales video, or you made that perfect pitch, and people said yes, or they gave you a standing ovation. It's because of your communication. But communication's like that thing we kind of discount, because we have to do it all the time. But I think you and I both know as achievers, as people who are striving to live our dreams and take our lives to another level, well, gosh, sometimes it's difficult to know how to start a conversation with somebody, to overcome our own shyness, to structure persuasion, to really have influence with other people, whether it's 1,000 people in an audience, a person on a video camera, or that person you're on a first date with. It's difficult. And so we have to be on this path of lifelong learning to hone that skill of communication. I always say it, communication is the most lucrative skill in the world. And it's the most critical skill to all of leadership. You already know that, but sometimes it's just, a fight to focus on it. And that's why I teamed up with Larry King to produce his new course. I'm sure you heard about it. If you haven't, there's a button on this page somewhere where you can learn about his new course where he's teaching communication mastery. And over these last 2 days, I'm still on the set that we built for him, we talked about that topic of communication. And I learned so much from him. And I'll tell you too, he interviewed me. I haven't released that footage yet, but I was awkward as all get out. I mean, it's just like you're sitting across from this guy who's probably the most iconic communicator in the history of the world now. Over 60 years on television. No other interviewer or communicator has ever been watched more than this guy. Like 60 years of doing it. And so the legend's sitting there, and he was, you can't see it, but he was right off camera, and he was like this close to me. And his eyes are so penetrating, and his questions are so precise and almost random sometimes, because he just is so the master of where to go next in an interview. I've never seen anything like it. So he's got a new course. If you haven't checked it out, you can click the button down below and enroll in that. But I want to share with you just at a personal level with you all, because you've been with me for so long, and I know this topic is as important to you as it is to me. I just want to share with you the 5 things I learned from him. The first lesson I learned from Larry is about the extraordinary power of curiosity. Now, I know that can be a throwaway, so just listen. Don't be one of those people who are like, yeah, I've heard that before. Hold on. I want to tell you the difference between a billionaire and an academic. Here's what happened. While I was here with Larry, I got to see him interview a couple other people. One is a billionaire and one was an academic. And I got to meet them off stage. And I'll never forget that in meeting the two off stage, one guy who's very smart, very intelligent, and good guy, very good guy. And I interacted with him. He didn't really ask me any questions. Didn't really ask any of my team questions. Didn't really interact with people a lot. And it wasn't a shyness thing at all. The person was very adept socially. And then I talked with the billionaire. Asked me all sorts of questions. Complimented me. Talking. Getting excited about it. Totally curious about the team, about the situation, about what was going to go on with Larry. The difference between a billionaire and an academic. Their curiosity level of the environment that they're in. Their curiosity level about the people that they're talking with. It was night and day. One person, and they're both good people. And, either of them could be easily liked. But one's a billionaire. And I talked to Larry, and I remember asking him, this is years ago when I first met him, I said, what's your secret? At that time, he was approaching his 80th birthday when I met him. 80th. And he's still vibrant and laughing and having this great time at dinner. And I said, man, what's your secret? You're 80 years old. What's the secret to just your lifelong energy? He goes, curiosity, kid. He's so curious about the people around him. But when's the last time you really asked some great questions to your spouse? To really learn about their feelings and their day. When's the last time you really engaged your team to find out where they're at and what they're struggling with, what they really want? When's the last time you noticed everything around your environment, your house, and you were just mindful aware and present. We're in this big mindful revolution right now. Well, the mindful revolution is really, at the seat of that, is curiosity. To be curious enough to engage with the world. And that's his mastery. And one of the things he teaches in his course that I highly recommend to you is how he thinks about curiosity. How does he come up with his questions for people, right? Because if you're ever going to interview a job candidate, or you're ever going to be on that date and you got to ask some questions to see if they're right for you, how do you come up with those questions that actually get people to share with you? Because one of our barriers in communication is we don't know how to get people to share with us. And that's such a challenge for so many people. And even if they have the intent to be curious, they don't know how to fulfill it through communication mastery. I hope that makes sense. The power of curiosity. Get more curious with the people around you. The second thing I learned from him, work ethic. Work ethic. Now, this one, I don't need to tell high performers this. You and I both know, if you followed any of my work, I've talked about the power of showing up, the power of high performance for years. If you're going to achieve anything to another level, you have to be a high performer. That means you've got to master your mind, you've got to master your ability to energize yourself, you've got to master your focus, your ability to produce, your ability to work with other people, understanding your purpose underneath all of that. That's just being in the zone more often at the highest levels. But I'll tell you, you can't ever achieve that next level without a higher level of work ethic. We want to believe it, because here's what I call the success lie. The success lie is, well, I succeeded at this thing, so the next thing should be way easier. But it doesn't happen that way, because you succeed at this one thing, and what do? You raise your ambition for the next thing. So that next thing is actually a little higher, a little more difficult. And what we think is, well, I succeeded at this, going this next level should just be as easy. And we don't honor the struggle, the work that would be required to get to that new level again. And so what we do is we work a little bit, and we're like, this is too hard, too difficult, outside my competencies, outside my capabilities. I'm not as confident at it. So I'll quit, and I'll go back to this thing that made me comfortable and successful. And so that's the real ceiling of success, is the truth that just above that ceiling to the next level, that breakthrough level, there's this work that is required. And here I was sitting with Larry for 2 days. This guy powered through live broadcasts, recording, interviewing 4 or 5 different people, and every moment he was in there. And one thing I appreciated, if you guys do video, I know a lot of you do, like I do, he was so thoughtful about batching all of them, meaning like yesterday when I was filming with him, he could have easily chosen to, the idea was we're going to film a couple, then we're going to take a break, film a couple, then he was going to go to the airport. Instead, he did a couple, and we were all kind of a little bit fried, and he's like, let's go. Let's get him done. I want to go to the airport. Let's get him. And we just did it back to back to back to back. His work ethic at 83 years old, he would lap any 20-year-old. I remember with some friends, and I'm a high performer. I train people on physiology. We got to the end of the day, and we were all like, man, that was a long day. Like, we were wiped out. He's 83. His work ethic and focus is what made him a legend. And I really believe when you watch his course, and I hope you'll enroll again, when you see his course, what he talks about, just his approach to his career. I mean, wouldn't you love to have a career that spans 5 decades where you're the world's best at it? What's the mindset of that? I mean, how do you have to approach your work to get there? Because I think what he understates in his new course is how much wisdom he shares from the mindset perspective. Because you're already an achiever. I know that. That's why you watch my videos. But what's that next level of mindset that makes you an icon for 50 years? Third thing I learned, fun. This guy was fun. He was constantly, if you saw my live broadcast with him, you saw him bring on his wife, give her a hard time, and they had this cute banter back and forth. If you were, like when I sat here with him, he'd kind of say something to throw me off a little bit, just to mess with me. When we went to dinner, he was telling us about all the pranks that they used to play at CNN on their producers. He's somebody who realized that, in life, as I'm always saying, bring the joy. Make it fun. Don't hope for, a good day to land on you to enjoy life. Like, bring humor back into life. One thing about him and his entire career, a lot of people don't know because they saw him as, the straight person, the interviewer, the newsman. on television is how hilarious he is. Like, hilarious. He's got a bag of jokes that he's run for 30, 40 years that just wreck it, that he can bring up in any situation. And that's part of communication mastery, is knowing your stories, knowing your tells, your jokes, and he had that. He had that. So he could just be on the moment, hilarious, and just wreck it. And he has this beautiful ability to tease the people around him and be serious about it. And you're not quite sure, is he messing with me? And then he'd do it with his wife. But then he also makes fun of himself. And it's that self-deprecating humor that has really made him, have so many of his videos on Hulu, as an example, just explode because it's Larry joking about himself. And that's pretty powerful stuff. So bring the fun and joy to whatever you're doing. The fourth big thing I learned from him was presence. You've heard me teach this if you've been with us for a while. This is 20 years. I've been teaching that presence is the most important thing to all of enjoyment of life. It just, after my car accident, I just learned to appreciate and value life, to, as we said, be curious about it, but also be mindful and gracious about it, to have a reverence for life. And that comes from presence. And when he sat here, what threw me off, and what threw off, the next 4 people I saw him work with, and the people that we worked with together in the past, is when he talks to you, he's like, whoom, right there. And I mean, there's nothing else in the world when you're talking with him. Nothing exists. And I know you've been on a date with somebody who was like that before, or you had a friend like that before. You're just out hanging out, and you were just like, wow, this person was with me the whole time. They weren't on their phone. They weren't thinking and daydreaming. They were like, whoom, right there. And that person, you just thought, wow, that person gets me. That person feels me. They draw you in through the power of presence. And I think we all need to get better at that with our kids, when we do videos, when we're on stage, when we're trying to influence our teams, when we're trying to make our difference in the world, to truly be there in the moment with mindfulness, but with graciousness and gratitude. Because real presence has this feeling like, I'm happy to be here. And he has that. He enjoys it. He's right up in there in your eyes, and you're like, oh, this guy's really, like he enjoys it, but he's right there with you. There's 20 people. There's lights, there's camera, there's directors, there's all these things going on, but he's like, whoop, right there in the game. That's why he's a legend. And then the last thing, the fifth thing for me, is the power of precise questions. To know where you're going in a conversation is difficult. To know where you're going in persuasion is difficult. To know how to take someone's response to you and then switch their entire direction with the right question, that's an art. There are maybe 4 people I've met in my life who mastered that. No one's more capable and has proven the ability to do that than Larry. I mean, you think about, if you were going to interview the Dalai Lama, what questions would you ask him? If you're going to interview a U.S. president or a world leader, how do you formulate those questions? If you're interviewing somebody and you think they might be full of crap, how do you catch them on that? If you're trying to decide between one person or another person and you've got to ask them the same sets of questions, how do you come up with the questions that's going to reveal the character of a person, reveal the accomplishments of the person, or the potential of a person? All that only comes back to one thing: questions. What's the right question to ask? When? How? How do you use a question to change a subject? Or how do you use a question to go deeper? That's what I saw him demonstrate constantly. I was just like, wow, this guy. And he threw me off. I'll tell you, myself and the other people I saw, I've been interviewed, it feels like a bajillion times. But in my interview with him, there was times he threw me off my game. And that's power. That's real power. He didn't do it in a way purposely to throw me off my game. It's just he's so good of where to take a conversation. And imagine if you mastered that. Imagine if you mastered any of these 5 things. And that's what I'd love for you to do and take this journey with me. I help produce Larry's course. It's called Communication Mastery. There's a button again on this page where you can see all the details about it. But it's incredible. It's the world's most iconic communicator coaching you for an entire year on how to be a better communicator. so your relationships improve, so that you're better able to influence other people, so that you have just a greater confidence in life because you can show up at a networking event, know what to say because he teaches that. You can show up on stage and know how to wow the audience and get a standing ovation because he teaches that. You know what to do in an interview and how to change it and adjust it because he teaches that. And the best of all, he teaches it not just theoretically. He tells you the concept and he says, let me tell you the example of when that happened with Bill Clinton when I was interviewing him. Let me tell you the example of what I learned from Steve Jobs. Let me tell you what I learned from Oprah about communication. He's taking this, 60-year iconic career and pulling out these stories. I told all my friends who are in the marketing world, I said, guys, get this course just for the stories, just to have context about how you can be a better storyteller. Because what a lot of people don't know about him, outside of the fact he can ask great questions, he can spellbound an audience. The first time I ever saw Larry, he was, we were in, I think it was Cow Palace in San Francisco. There was about 10,000 people in the audience. And I saw him go up on stage and stun people because they didn't know he was that funny. They didn't know he was that good of a storyteller. They didn't know he was that masterful of a communicator. But what happened if you got in front of 10,000 people? Would you know what to do? A lot of people don't. What would happen if you finally got to interview the great influencer, the person who changed your life? How would you do it? What happens if you finally get that meeting, that boardroom, that you've been waiting for to get in front of these people forever, to pitch your idea, to start your business? Do you know how to show up? Do you know what to say? Do you know how to persuade? These are all the topics that he covers in his course. It's an unbelievable 10 videos that will change your life. And then after the 10 videos, every month for the next 12 months, he's interviewing some of the world's greatest, mastery level communicators. In one of the interviews, for example, with me, which you guys get as a bonus when you sign up today, you get a bonus where he's interviewing me. He's like, why do people fail at persuasion? How do you get all these 4 million people to follow you? Well, how did you do this? And he's just kind of deconstructing my career a little bit to find out what you could learn in your communication. So that goes on for a year when you sign up today. And so what would you pay Larry King to learn from him? That's what I always think about it. This guy, charges, millions of dollars, charges tens of thousands of dollars to show up, just to show up somewhere. He's coaching you for a year. What I like about it, and I want you to be really clear about this, it's not some overly produced nonsense. He's looking at you like I'm looking at you now. He's talking to you. It feels like this is like this wise person just handing you the secrets to life. And what's that worth? I think about if someone said to me, 10 years ago, hey, Brendan, Larry King's going to coach you on communication for a year. I would have given him everything I got because I knew how important this was to my career. You watch my videos, how much faster I would have been able to master that if I had somebody coaching me. I had to do it by trial and error. And I know wherever you're at right now in your life, you did it by trial and error. Maybe you had a coach, maybe you didn't. But did you have an icon as a coach or somebody who just kind of sort of did it? This is the ability to have the world's greatest communicator help you master the world's most important skill for you to attain that next level, whether that next level for you is just a deeper relationship with somebody who you love, and it's just time to get more curious and present and fun with them, or it's for you to more influence your team, or it's time to make that pitch and start that business and follow your dream. And to do that, you need to know how to network, you need to know how to persuade, you need to know how to be amazing with people. So that's what your opportunity is today. And I hope you enjoyed these 5 tips, but I also hope you go further with us. Click the button, enroll in this course. Not only will you see his training, but then in one of the months, you'll see me. You'll also see one of the world's most successful people on television in sales. You'll see the billionaire interview. You'll see people who just because of how they speak have become the world's most influential at what they do. I don't know how to put a price on that, but I know it's a whole lot more than what you're going to be paying. This discount for this course, because we produced it together, I said, I just want to get you in front of the world. How can I help? And so that's why I'm shooting this video for you all, because I have also promised you, I'll always help you. As I've built my career, the more influential people I meet, I bring them to you. When I got to meet Arianna Huffington, I brought her on our stages. When I got to work with Oprah, I got to have that great conversation with her. This is my gift and this is my work. It's like as I meet more people who are those higher achievers, I'm just breaking down, what do they know? What do they learn? And how can you do it in your life too? And this is an opportunity for that today. You can learn communication from the world's most iconic communicator. Click the button down below, enroll in Larry's course. I can't wait to hear what you think about it and hear about all the results that you have when you start improving your communication. Click the button below. We'll see you on the other side.